Let's take up one more question, which is Cortinas retail clothing. ठीक है. Respond to the board's request for work on the following areas: budgeting system proposal and activity based budget, 10 marks each. ठीक है. Uh, Yukta, can you read Exhibit 1 and Exhibit 2?
Sure, sir. Exhibit 1 Company Information. CRC started as a clothing retailer 20 years ago with one store. The business expanded steadily and had 10 stores after 18 years of trading. Since then, the rate of expansion has increased rapidly with an average of 4 stores opening per year. CRC is planning to open its first large out of town store soon and is also considering the acquisition of a food retailing business. Both of these will be supplied with items using CRC's existing central warehouse. Introduction of RFID system. At the beginning of the 20x5 accounting year, to cope with this rapid growth, CRC acquired a RFID radio frequency identification device system at its single central warehouse. This was to help manage inventory more effectively and speed up the processes for receiving items from suppliers and dispatching them to stores. Items are still moved manually by staff in the CRC warehouse, where there is little automation compared to competitors. There has been some resistance from staff to the RFID system, which they find difficult to use. CRC is currently trying to reduce the numbers of suppliers it has to help increase efficiency in the warehouse.
Okay. The question is respond to the board's request on. So, paragraph 1 is giving you background of the business. Started as a clothing retailer 20 years ago with one store. The business expanded steadily and had 10 stores after 18 years of trading. Very good. Since then, the rate of expansion has increased rapidly with an average of 4 stores opening per year. CRC is planning to open its first large out of town store soon and is also considering the acquisition of a food retailing business. Both of these will be supplied with items using CRC's existing central warehouse. Introduction of RFID. RFID is radio frequency identification device, like a tracking device, at its single central warehouse. This was to help manage inventory more effectively and speed up the process for receiving items from suppliers and dispatching them to stores. Items are still moved manually by staff in the CRC warehouse where there is little automation. There has been resistance to RFID. Now, budgeting system proposal. Vatsal, can you read this for us?
The budget setting process has remained unchanged since CRC was formed. Our manager prepare drafts based using spreadsheet and submit them to the CRC board for approval. Manager used the previous year's result as a starting point when drafting the budgets and increasing the variable cost in line with the anticipated growth in volumes. For example, when preparing the budget for the year ending 30 June 2006, the manager of the central warehouse used the actual cost of running the warehouse from previous year and increased them all by the same percentage. This was to reflect an anticipated increase in the volume in 2006 over 2005. Managers are appraised on their performance against the approved budget. CRCS needed all its financial resources to fund its expansion, so it has only old and basic IT systems, which are not enterprise resource planning system, a unified database or network systems. It has been suggested to CRC board that the current system of budgeting is no longer suitable, that the business should move to activity-based budgeting, and the CEO has asked you to evaluate the potential introduction of ABB at CRC.
Okay. Acha, first of all, understand कि they have a current approach, which is the traditional budgeting system, and they want to move to activity based budgeting. The board has never seen an activity based budget before and is unsure how it could be used to explain variances between actual and budgeted performance in the central warehouse. As an example, they would like to see how an activity based budget for the year ending 30th June 2006 could be used to explain variances from the actual results for the month of June to July 2005. The two key activities which drive costs in the central warehouse are receipt of items into the goods inward section and dispatches of items from the goods outward section. A receipt into goods inward involves accepting a delivery of items from a supplier, tagging those items and putting them away in the warehouse. Receipts from suppliers contain variable number of individual items. Dispatches of items from goods outwards are to CRC's own retail stores. Cost driver rates for these two activities will be used to set monthly cost budgets in the warehouse. The board is asking the board has asked an analyst to prepare an activity based budget for the central warehouse. The analyst has collected relevant information on the cost for the year needed to prepare the activity based budget and has begun the work. The total annual cost relating to goods inward needs to be determined. This should be used to calculate the budgeted cost of each receipt into goods inward. In order to explain the variance between the budgeted cost and the actual cost of receipt of goods inward for the month of July, the analyst has already correctly included the cost of the warehouse manager's salary and the lease of RFID system into the incomplete activity based budget. The board has asked you to complete the analyst's work and explain the variance between budgeted cost and actual cost. To enable you to complete your calculations, you are told that in July 2005, there were 650 receipts into goods inward. These receipts contained 1 lakh items, which is the same as the budgeted number of items for the month. The actual total cost of activities driven by receipts into goods inward for the month was 18,000. What are the two tasks that you are supposed to do? Board's request for work on the following areas: budgeting system proposal. ठीक है. The CEO has asked you to evaluate the potential introduction of ABB at CRC. ठीक है, ये आपका फर्स्ट टास्क है. यूजुअली ना एपीएम का रिक्वायरमेंट यहाँ इट्स नॉट यूजुअली गिवन इन द रिक्वायरमेंट, इट्स गिवन इन द लास्ट पैराग्राफ. ठीक है, of that exhibit. It has been suggested to CRC board that current system of budgeting is no longer suitable and the business would like to move to activity based budgeting. CEO has asked you to evaluate the potential introduction of ABB at CRC. ठीक है. Now, what are the advantages? Evaluate the potential introduction. That means you have to talk about advantages and disadvantages both of introducing activity based budgeting. ठीक है. Now, an answer to this type of question, how should that be framed? See, you should first of all talk about the problems with the old system. ठीक है, old system में क्या problems थे? How is the new system planning to solve the problems? So your answer should focus on how can activity based budgeting try to solve the problems that were posed by the older system. ठीक है, which means whatever the older system was, you will have to first of all spend time in evaluating and explaining कि यार वो क्या system था, what were its advantages and disadvantages. Then how does introduction of activity based budgeting suddenly solve those problems for you? Correct. So that is how you will be able to get marks in the paper. आपको you will have to evaluate that from both the angles. ठीक है. Now when it comes to a situation like this, make sure that you are relating your answer to facts of the case. ठीक है, अपने मन से कुछ भी नहीं करना है. Even if you remember certain things from your previous studies, make sure that you stick to this case. Now tell me, in the existing system that you have, which is not activity based budgeting system, which is more like an incremental budgeting system, what are some of the advantages of the current system? Can you tell me?
It is easy to calculate.
Easy to calculate. Okay. Then,
And previously, as the stores were located in the same location, so like at some extent, incremental budgeting would have been suitable.
hmm,
But now, can I tell the disadvantage too?
go ahead.
But now they're planning to locate uh, in some different area. So using incremental budgeting might not helpful because of changes in the company might face some changes in the demand or any other factors due to change in the location.
Okay. Vatsal, what do you have to say on this? Disadvantages of the current budgeting system. What she mentioned is if the operations are inefficient, then it might not be useful. Do you have anything to add?
Um, like to be honestly, they are working on a basis of rolling budget, so they are using past years like budgeting figures for to and at the growth percent in the current year. So there might be chance that they might be like you building a slack that and because of they are getting rewarded based on the variance that they may like overestimate the budgeted amount and then they will come up with a good answer, or they may not try to push back or negotiate on any like supplier or anyone else.
Very good. So basically, you are trying to say that it is building a budgetary slack, which is a problem. है ना? And that is not helping them to better or push the performance to the next level. Understood. It can also discourage innovation and efficiency, and it will, in fact, build up more inefficiencies in the system. And there's a good enough reason because you are only being evaluated with respect to what was done in the last quarter, and you are simply just adding back or making adjustments to it, right? So that's not really helping you in analyzing the situation. What it is only doing for you is that it is telling you कि last quarter or last year इतना था, so I'm making XYZ change in the system right now. You are going ahead with that and closing the discussion. Nothing else apart from that is happening. What else?
Not sure, so like not sure, sir.
Urvaksh, anything from you?
No, I had the same innovation point in mind.
Okay. See, when the business is changing rapidly, see, there are 4 stores getting added every year. So this rolling budgets wala jo system hai, I don't think that is going to be useful because you cannot just simply add an incremental number and project the value for the future year. Because there are newer centers coming up every year. Naturally, you will have to evaluate it in a different perspective. आपको evaluate करना पड़ेगा कि what is the size of each of these stores, what is the staff employed there, what is the business you are trying to cover there, and that way you can see it growing year on year. So right now it doesn't seem like incremental budgets or rolling budgets, whatever you are using, they don't seem to be solving the problem for you, है ना? Now, how does introduction of an activity based budget help you? Any thoughts on that?
So it will activity-based budgeting will, more efficient, will involve more efficient resource allocation.
Okay. Okay. Yukta?
So it will help in eliminating the non-value adding activities because in incremental budgeting we were just increasing the amount at a particular extent for the budget. But by using ABB, we will use the cost drivers and that will help in eliminating the non-value adding activities.
ओके ठीक है वत्सल
I had the same thought, sir. Yes.
okay. See, when it comes to activity based budgeting, it focuses on activities and the cost drivers. So you don't estimate costs in a random manner. You first of all identify which cost is influenced by which factor, then you use that particular factor, you identify how many cost drivers are going to be there, and then you try to eliminate the non value adding activities. Okay, useful when overheads form a large proportion of the cost naturally. It helps in, see, because you are identifying cost drivers. What is a cost driver? A cost driver is an item which influences the cost. So when I'm talking about that, when I'm doing an analysis of cost drivers, don't you think on a certain level it will help me to identify which activities have the greatest impact on cost, and maybe it can help me to get rid of certain non-value adding activities, right? It can help me to identify my critical success factors. It is more suitable in, in a world where the businesses are changing. And in this case, where new businesses are getting added, it might be the best tool for you to use. But activity based budgeting is not without its limitations. First of all, it is a time consuming activity. And why? Plus, it also will involve a significant amount of cost. Because, see, when you are using activity based costing or activity based budgeting, एक तो आपको identification of cost driver is not an easy activity. It's not necessary that every time you sit down to do this analysis, you might not be able to find a direct link between a particular cost item and what drives that particular cost. So establishing that link every time is not going to be easy. That is a limitation. Plus, the amount of effort that is required to establish a tangible link between a cost driver and the cost is going to be a time consuming activity again. So you will also need sophisticated systems to, gather the data in one place. You will need complex IT system requirements. There will be short-term controllability issues. So all of these would make it a little difficult to implement ABB. But this company should adopt activity-based budgeting because it is, expanding rapidly. There is entry into new retail formats, and then there is increased operational complexity. तो उसके लिए एक्टिविटी बेस्ड बजटिंग इज गोइंग टू बी क्वाइट हेल्पफुल. ठीक है. अब नाउ आई वांट यू टू रीड.
So please scroll.
श्योर. Basically all points that we have discussed same ही है. Done? Now, they've asked you to do something with respect to activity based budget. ठीक है? What is the expectation? Expectation is ये देखो ये पूछा है करने को. The board has asked you to complete the analyst's work and explain the variance between budgeted cost and actual cost for each receipt into goods inward for July 2005. ठीक है. So there are fields that he has left blank. ठीक है. He did some of the job and he left the remaining part undone. So you have to fill in the blanks, you have to complete this, and then you have to do variance analysis. ठीक है. So let's see how we can do it. When you are framing an answer to a question of this type, think of the format that you are going to do it. Best to use the format that they have provided. अपने मन से क्यों करना है. ठीक है. Use this format: total, goods inward, goods outward, and others. And here, of course, we have particulars. Warehouse manager salary, then lease of RFID system, then RFID tagging, and warehouse staff wages, heating and lighting. Some values have already been put in. क्या क्या डाला है? 55, then ये है कितना? 75, 45, 30. बाकी का we have to fill. I'm going to put these in some color so that you know कि यार ये already दिया हुआ था. ठीक है? These were given to you. This was given to you. Now, warehouse manager salary. The cost of warehouse manager's salary relates to all sections of the warehouse and cannot be apportioned directly to goods inward and goods outward. ठीक है? Then the cost for RFID is invoiced by a lease company. 60% of this cost is allocated to goods inward and remaining to goods outward. ठीक है? The cost of RFID tagging is the wages cost for specially trained staff known as taggers. Their only job is to attach RFID tags to items when they are received before the items are put away in the warehouse. You know what are these RFID tags? A similar example is, when you go to West Side, or, when you go to these stores or Zara, for example, if you pick up a shirt, there is this plastic thing attached to it. You take it to the cash counter, they remove it, and then they bill it to you. If you try to take that shirt out of the premises, there will be an alarm that will set off, and they will catch thieves that way. So that is like an RFID system. All items are RFID tagged and cost of tagging are allocated entirely to the cost of goods inward. Each tagger can attach 35,000 tags per month and is paid an annual salary of 24,000. The cost of each individual RFID tag is negligible. ठीक है. अब what is the number of items each tagger can put? How many tags a month? He can put 35,000 tags a month. How many items are received every month? बताना तो. Do we have any information on that? कि every month how many items are gotten inward? हाँ, ये देखो, यहाँ पे you have information. To enable you to complete your calculations, you are told that in July 2005 there were 650 receipts into goods inward. These receipts consisted of 1 lakh items. ठीक है. Now, receipts 1 lakh items. ठीक है. Then each tagger can attach 35,000 tags per month. Tags attached by each tagger, 35,000 items. So, how many taggers will be needed? Very clearly, you will need 1 lakh upon 35,000, that is 3 taggers, correct? So, how much salary will you pay them? 3 taggers into
24,000.
24,000 per tagger. How much will that be? 72,000. So RFID tagging is associated only with goods inward, 72,000 and iska 72,000. You can show this as a working note actually. ठीक है. Then warehouse staff wages. There were 12 full-time warehouse staff throughout the year to 30th June 2005 who were each paid an annual salary of 20 to 500. Two more staff will be recruited at the beginning of the new budget year. 50% of the warehouse staff work in goods inward and 50% in goods outward. कैसे split करेंगे इसको? How many workers are there? There are 12 full-time. है ना? Two more staff will be recruited at the start of the new budget year. मतलब 14. 20 to 500 into 14 करो कितना होता है? 3,15,000.
3,15,000.
This has to be split equally between what? Goods inward and goods outward, है ना?
Yes, sir.
This by 2. यार ये तो नॉलेज लेवल का भी क्वेश्चन नहीं लगता है मुझे. The cost of heating and lighting relates to all sections of the warehouse and cannot be apportioned directly to goods inward or goods outward. The actual heating and lighting cost for last year was 10,000 and warehouse manager has proposed a budget of 10,500 for the coming year. The general cost of inflation though is expected to be zero. इसका क्या करेंगे? Heating and lighting relates to all sections of the warehouse and cannot be apportioned directly. The general cost of inflation is expected to be zero. Now he has proposed 10,500, but there is no inflation. So actually we can keep it at 10,000 only because there is no inflation expected. ठीक है? Not splitting it between inward outward. Even if you do 10,500, it's not that big of a problem. कर सकते हैं आप. ठीक है? अब ये सब हो गया. What is the total? Now, this is the total cost. The annual number of receipts into goods inward is expected is 9,000, containing a total of 12 lakh items. These are expected to occur evenly over the year. Now, what is the expected annual number of goods, annual number of receipts? Expected annual number of receipts 9,000. ठीक है? तो what is the cost per receipt into goods inward? Is it right?
So 274 500, no? Goods
Correct.
inward.
So I should write it here and my answer should be this upon 9,000, which is basically 30.5. What was the expectation? Variance between budgeted cost and actual cost for each receipt into goods inward. So this is one calculation that you have done 30.5. अब we have to do variance analysis. ये तो हमने कर लिया. What should we compare this with? How many receipts are expected during the year? There were 650 receipts into goods inward. है ना? Actual number of receipts in July 650. So budgeted cost for goods inward 19,825. ठीक है, देन व्हाट शुड यू कंपेयर दिस विथ? द एक्चुअल कॉस्ट इज 18,000, है ना? ठीक है, व्हाट इज द डिफरेंस?
1825.
1825. Now, see, 1 lakh items were processed in July 2005, and that is like the same as the budgeted amount. है ना? Budgeted amount 1 lakh था, 1 lakh budgeted items, and actual में कितना था? 12 lakh, and it is expected to occur evenly. तो again, that is actual number is also 1 lakh. ठीक है, अब this is the basic variance analysis that they wanted us to do. They wanted us to, complete this table. तो कुछ ऐसा बहुत ग्रेट काम भी नहीं किया है हमने. ओनली दीज थ्री थिंग्स इज व्हाट वी डिड ऑन आर ओन, एंड आई डोंट reckon them to be difficult in any way. इजी थे ये सारे कैलकुलेशंस. A knowledge level student would have done it without any knowledge of costing. ठीक है, एंड देन फिर यार वो वेरिएंस निकालना वगैरह, आई डोंट थिंक दैट्स अ वेरी टफ जॉब. सो वी completed the table. See, prepare the working notes properly, because if the table filling is so simple, naturally they expect it to be, matlab they would want you to show the calculations properly. But apart from this, I don't think कुछ बहुत ज्यादा है इसमें. It appears to be a tough question, and you know why does that happen? Because our mind is like, यार we are at P level, तो ये क्वेश्चन डिफिकल्ट ही होना चाहिए. एंड if when it is so simple, you kind of try to unnecessarily find complexities. So just don't fall prey to that. Baki, this question is, in my opinion, fairly easy, only if you pay attention to the steps that have to be followed. ठीक है.